Come on. What's happening, kids? It's Wednesday. It's May 10th. Has a good ring to it. There's a new king in town over in the UK. The sun is shining in Oregon, and I hope Thaddeus, Brandon, DJ, Wilder. Who else we got in here? I hope you're all doing well. I don't think we're ecstatic today, DJ Succotash, and I'll tell you why. So we'll do our housekeeping first. It's been a while. Sorry, by the way, no episode last week. I was up in Seattle. I was DPing a production, corporate shoot. Can talk a little bit about that. But the reason that we are not doing the daily egg drop soup, they call it here on the West Coast. It's always been egg drop soup on the East Coast of the United States where I grew up. But here they call it like egg flour soup or something, or flour. I don't know. I'm not used to it yet. We also don't have duck sauce here on the West Coast. Yes, Thaddeus. Apparently none of the rest of us did our homework assignment. So I pushed the egg-sided challenge to June, mainly because of the lack of submissions. So Onocoffee, Jay, submitted something, and that's ready to go out to the world. And then everybody else failed. So shame on you. Shame on you. And we have to do June 14th because my schedule with production and also with cine gear coming up and everything else is kind of crazy. So sorry I missed you as well, Colin. Steven says, hey, entered a 48-hour film fest in Pittsburgh, and there was a team named the C-47s. It was not. So, Wilder, you have until June now to do this. It's a boiled egg challenge. You can see it in the live section of the channel. I expect a half a dozen people at least to be a part of this. We've already got 2 if it's me and Onocoffee. So you've got more time. So let's do it. Boiled eggs. If you want them soft boiled, fine. Hard boiled, fine. Recipe 60 seconds or less, 9:16 aspect ratio, and the rest is up to you. That's what it's going to be. So get your submissions in, challenge@thec47.com, and let's get this thing going here. Lame. All right. So last week, I was in Seattle. I did a drive up on Wednesday morning, arrived. We went, wait, is that what I did? No. Yes. Drove up Wednesday morning, arrived, and then loaded out into the hotel. First thing Thursday morning to the location, high-rise building, tech company, windows everywhere, and had to shoot 3 interviews over 2 days. We wanted to give all of those interviews different setups. And if you've never done it before, if you're shooting into windows with talent pretty close to them, it can be a challenge. But we were up to the task and we got it done. So beautiful. Brandon, get a new dog. And I'm a dog person. There you go. Ono's here. The only person in the known universe to submit an egg-static submission. And by the way, whatever that thing is that he made, I want to eat it. So there you go. All right. David, of course somebody else can be doing the cooking. You're shooting the video. That's not one of the line items that you have to be the one doing all of the work. You have to have a 60-second or less 9:16 video. The theme is a boiled egg, but you can make whatever recipe you want. Do your thing. It's a beautiful thing. All right. This week's a little hectic over here. I am prepping to do an educational series next week with a crew on the Canon R5C. So there's a lot of planning and a lot of paperwork and scheduling and shot lists and everything else happening. And that's sort of what my world is like in this space right now. It's a little chaotic. There's a lot of things coming in specifically for that shoot, both camera systems, but also all the other gack that you need to shoot educational videos. And we start in earnest first thing next Monday morning. We go all the way through till end of day Friday. So it's 5 days of production. And we're going to get a couple of days here with a trip to the coast on the first day to shoot some stuff with one of our talent. And then the second half of the week, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we're actually going to be shooting at a university um, about an hour away from here. That is going to be our location for the rest of the videos, the on location stuff. So I'm excited. It's going to be fun. And I've got a good crew, a lot of people I've worked with before, and then some people I've never worked with. I don't know if Pat is here on the live stream or not. He tends to teach on Wednesdays, but he will again be part of the crew for the Wednesday through Friday portion of this. And it's always like a jigsaw puzzle. I know a lot of you have done production and been doing it for a long time, and you never have enough time for prep. You never have enough time during production, but somehow, usually, we make it all work out somehow. I don't know. That's the way it goes. All right. So tell me what you've been up to. Obviously, the chat is open for questions, and I see one from DJ Succotash, which I'm going to do that. I'll answer that question. And then we'll jump into some other stuff. So, DJ, about the windows. We did not. Wait a minute. Oh, I'm reading Ono's thing. I'm getting hungry now. So, what do we do about the windows on that shoot in Seattle? Um, First of all, I mean, mostly a blessing. We did have cloudy skies for both of the days of production. So, we didn't really need to contend with the sun coming out from the clouds, going behind clouds, coming back out. So, that was good. But when you've got talent that's relatively close to big windows and you want to use big sources in terms of your fixtures, and what we did on that shoot is I put the Nanlite 720B inside of a big softbox, which had like 150 centimeters, so like a 60-inch softbox, and that was our main light. And then what I did is I set up a like a 6x6 sound blanket, but it's one that is pure white on one side, black on the other. So we use that as essentially the fill, the bounce. And then the talent was feet away from the window. So as you can imagine, if you put your camera straight onto the window and then you have your key light, even if it's sort of split key, you have to adjust things. And then we found that we were just seeing too many reflections. There's a lot of flagging going on in the space because of how much light was coming into the space. So the solution generally is to swing your cameras and not go straight on to the windows and be at an angle. And then you can start to reduce some of that. I do have some BTS stills, but I don't have them on my computer right now. I would love to share those. So yeah, we just had to kind of swing over to an angle, and then we would sort of split key with that big light, but it was so big. But then two of our talent had glasses. So instead of flipping the key, we just raised that up. But because it was so big, we could still get a catch. But for one of the setups, I had to actually set up that little Molus X100. And what I did is I matched color temperature of our key, and on our bounce side in that white bounce, I used the light and just filled it up so that I could get a catch light there. So yeah, there you go. All right. Any other questions on that? I'm happy to answer it. Brandon says, what's been new in your kitchen? Cook anything interesting lately? I don't know about interesting. A lot of cast iron skillet stuff recently. I did do smoked ribs. So this was the first time I broke out the pellet grill this season because it's starting to be nice. So I did ribs on Sunday, and those came out well. I should have pulled them a little bit earlier, but they were good. And some other stuff I had planned. I have the crew coming in on Sunday. So for the core crew, I'll do a big barbecue on Sunday. Maybe like a pork shoulder, like pulled pork, or maybe I'll do some other stuff. All right, there we go. Let's see. Yeah, the reflections are just crazy. And the one thing I wish I had on that shoot, because it may have solved problems, was a polarizer for the two lenses we were using. Yeah. All right. Wilder did a teardown of the VB50 battery from Small Rig because it failed and got replaced under warranty. And in the process, I managed to fix it. Does that mean you got to keep the original and they got a replacement? So now you have two? I'm actually trying to revive my 9-bot Mini Pro, my little Segway. It's been in a waterproof, ginormous Pelican case for years, and the battery has hibernated. So I'm getting another power supply. I took the whole battery apart yesterday, Wilder, actually, oddly enough. But all of the recommendations to sort of kickstart it so it would start charging did not work. So I'm getting another power supply that I ordered for $40 on Amazon. I'm going to cut the leads on that. I'll have positive, negative, and you basically shove that into two of the terminals on the outside of the battery, which would normally attach to the Segway. And you run that for about an hour to 2 hours just to get the battery going again. It's sort of the workaround. And then once that's done, then you go ahead and just go to regular charging. So fingers crossed, because we want to use that next week for our shoot. The DP for the shoot also owns one of those, but is traveling from New Mexico, and asked if mine worked. So, of course, with the no time that I have to prep for the shoot, I'm going to wind up spending a half a day to a day getting that Segway going, hopefully. So there you go. You have two, Wilder. That's awesome. Any new synthesizers is the question. No, I'm tempted, but I'm not going to. There's so many cool things out there. I think I need to learn how to use the stuff that I have. Yes. Yes. To all the things that people are saying. Let's see. Let's talk about film. What do you want to talk about? Film? Like tungsten versus daylight? Or you just mean what we do for a living? Let me know. And then, are you going to be using Bruce Willis and Jason? Jason went away. I got rid of Jason. Bruce is around. And then like a generic female Asian actress, so I can use them together when I'm doing little tabletop setups. But no, I'm not using them for that. We're using real talent. We're using athletes, track and field athletes, basketball players, and we're just trying to work all of that stuff out. So I think we're gonna have 5 people in total for talent. 3 of them are track and field, and then one or two are going to be basketball players. And the trip to the coast that we're going to do on Monday would be with just one of those people. And what we want to do is get some footage of that person training on the beach. Uh, they're a runner and they do hurdles. And then the idea, at least, is that we shoot back plates in 8K on the R5C. And then because of the sound issues of filming by the beach and everything, we'll get some natural sound there. And then at a similar time of day, later in the week, we'll do a stand-up interview with the same person and then show some features. Because the whole point of when you do an educational series is to identify things that are in a particular camera system, features that the camera system has, and then do setups and use the camera in those different ways. And not the obvious. Years ago, when I would do these training series for Canon, we would identify more straightforward features. And there was definitely that period of time from the time that the 5D Mark II came out for probably at least 5, 6 years, where there was just a big transitional phase for people who came from more traditional small chip camcorders and video cameras, and also people who were still photographers who were used to using larger frame sizes, we'll call it. And we had to teach a lot more about the language of using a digital cinema camera or a DSLR or a mirrorless camera for video, and making sure that people really understood that stuff. Now we can be a little more selective and start to focus in the videos on things that people should know about, but they're very either specific to the camera system in terms of features, or are a little broader based, but maybe they're things that people aren't doing every day. So, like jam syncing time code into a camera like this, um, the myriad of recording options that you have and being able to see those. One of the days that we're going to be doing production, we're going to actually have a drone crew who is capable of flying an Alexa with a large lens on it. This is nothing to that system. So we'll be on an Alta, larger drone system, and they'll be there for the day to get some specific stuff. So yeah, there you go. I'm going to answer what the daily drop is, and I need some feedback on that soon, Brandon. So if I don't talk about that in the next 15 minutes or so, remind me. DJ says, so for these demos, they're a little less of a full-blown menu by menu breakdown. Yes and no. We're going to shoot 3 at the bench videos, which will be similar to this setup, where I am going through some menu systems and explaining recording options and how to set up your camera for time code and audio. And there will be some menu diving there. So that's the Monday, Tuesday part of it, are a few videos related to that. And then the Wednesday, Thursday, Friday are all on location with talent. And what we'll be doing is filming them in various situations when they're training, practicing, things like that. And we should be able to get some interesting stuff. I think we're definitely doing hurdles. We're going to do, I think, a javelin throw, discus, or putt, shot, whatever. Yeah, well, figure that out. And then basketball. So we've got some things to still break down. We have a pretty extensive shot list already. We need to match it up to the individual videos in the series. And that's always the jigsaw puzzle is, what is your schedule day to day? And then making sure you're getting the footage. And then at the end of it, the way we planned it, myself and the cinematographer will get up on camera for the on location videos and talk about the things that we've done. So that way we have all of this behind the scenes footage that's showing the feature or features in use, but then also talking about how we rig the camera, we use the camera and all of that stuff. It's a little, as I always say, inception-y, because you have the educational videos where that's the camera talking to the audience about how we used it and what we did. And then there's always a second crew that is the BTS and the essentially the educational video crew. So it is a film within a film within a film. 100%. So there's the promotional piece that we use as the basis. So you'll be able to watch we'll just say a 3 to 5 minute promotional piece, aspirational piece about these athletes. And then that's all being done by the cinematographer. And then there's the crew that's filming everything being done behind the scenes. So you can see the production in action. And then, of course, there's the educational thing. So there you go. David, welcome. Good to see you. Um, there we go. What else do we have? What is this? What's this daily drop? Okay, so let's get down to business here, kids, because I need some feedback from all whatever few numbers. I don't even know if we're in double digits here. So, and before I do that, Colin, I just got to think. I got a think tank. What's it called? It's the 52 Taskmaster. It's a rolling bag that fits 4 full size C stands. So it's a beast of a bag, and should do the job well. So I've definitely been acquiring a few little things for the shoot, which will help that production go more smoothly. You've got to, I do have a sprinter I'm renting through a friend that I know who's local, and that grip and electric crew is going to be there. You want to talk about the crew first before we talk about Daily Drop? Colin, I'm happy to talk about that. So essentially, it's going to be myself, director, producer, and I'll be on camera talent for some of the stuff educationally. Then the cinematographer, who will be responsible for shooting the promotional piece and also be on camera for the on location videos with me. Great cinematographer out of Albuquerque named James Kwan. Quantification.com is the website if you want to check it out. With a K, Quantification. And then we've got essentially a second camera op for we'll call it the hero footage and that main part of the production, who's also an AC data wrangler, who's fantastic. I've worked with her before. And then we have the BTS camera crew, which is one person who's a DP who will be DP and a camera operator. And then Pat, who I've hired to do drone stuff, will be the B camera operator for that crew. And then there will be essentially a swing crew. So they'll grip an electric, 2 people. They'll be in the sprinter, and that's a small package. It's really just grip equipment. So there'll be up to, I believe, 8 buys in there. There'll be 4 buys, floppies, all the normal stuff, sandbags. We'll have the equivalent of a Dana dolly in there, and then one beast of a fixture, which is the Nanlite 1200. So that'll be what we'll use with various reflectors and the Fresnel for some of the nighttime stuff and possibly in the gym for the basketball stuff. And then I'll also have 720B, 500B to 300B2. So those are all Nanlite. So those are all bicolor fixtures. So that'll give us some options. Whether or not those play at all, I don't know. We'll have a PA. We'll have a makeup artist for the on-location stuff. And I think that's our crew. And then an AD who will basically sort of wear the hat of a production manager and sort of the timekeeper for stuff. And it's a decent sized crew. It's gonna scale when we get to on location. So the core crew, when we're just doing the stuff here, is 5 people. Oh, and sound recordist, of course. So it's myself, cinematographer. We'll just call AC. and then one of the BTS crew, and then sound. So um, cost really depends on location and stuff, and that's a big part of it. Jobs like this usually range for, for something like this, they can be anywhere from 40 to 50 to, 100 to 150. It depends on the size of the project, the locations you're shooting in, how much your talent costs. It's like any production. It's it's it can really change, but it's a good sized crew, and some of the crew is coming in from out of town. So you have additional expenses. You have you have hotels. We have to rent another vehicle for the crew that's there, that's coming in from out of town, and that's 4 people total. And then yeah, you got to feed everybody for a week, and you got to cover all the other things. So it gets up there. It depends on what you're doing with the project, and how you're trying to accomplish it. And then, of course, there's the other side of it, which is this is going to be 7 videos total, and they're not going to be 2 or 3 minutes long, plus the promotional video. So you've got to do all the post production for that. So I have an editor who is blocking out essentially a month of their life for that. Um, it's exciting, fun to do it. The last time I did educational videos for Canon was in this basic space, but it was during the pandemic, and I couldn't bring crew in. And so I used, at the time, my 15-year-old daughter as the crew, and I had to do it that way. And at the time, it also wasn't a controlled environment. There was no insulation in the space. There was no soundproofing in the space. There was no heat or air conditioning. And I believe when we shot that, it was during the summer. So it was a constant, like, cool down phase and things like that. I used to shoot a lot of content in here where we would have to have space heaters in the winter and stuff. Got to do what you got to do. Will the out of towner self drive, or will you provide transportation? I will reimburse for the transportation cost. The crew is all flying in on the same day within about an hour and a half to 2 hours from each other. I'm going to have the dad of the crew essentially rent a minivan, and they'll be reimbursed. And that crew those 4 people will travel together with their kit, and they will also all stay at the same location. So that's basically the deal. Now, obviously, if you have a longer production time, you can sometimes reduce costs on a production because you're doing it over a longer period of time, and maybe the crew can be smaller, maybe it can't. But when you're doing these types of projects, you're usually trying to do everything in a very condensed period of time with hopefully enough time to prep and be ready for that. Um, like I said earlier, you're never really totally ready for it, but that's the goal overall. So that's what I'm in. And I'm in deep right now for the next 4 or 5 days until everybody arrives on Sunday. And then when they arrive, that's it. You just go. And everything else from that point forward is real time problem solving and everything else. Yeah. So there you go. Any other questions about that? I'm happy to answer them. Um, I'm waiting. I'm here. Spicoli, Bueller. Yes. Sound 50% of the picture, 90% of the problem, 0% of the consideration. Not for me. I was just trying to remember all the crew. In fact, sound was probably my second call after I spoke with and locked in who we were going to use for the cinematographer for the project. But that core crew, that cinematographer, the AC, the sound recordist, and the A camera operator for the BTS educational videos, those are all people that I've worked with for many years. So for instance, that Florida job that I did, the same sound recordist came down for that project, and it makes a huge difference. I mean, part of it is just we're all in sync because we know the way we work and they know the way I work. So that helps tremendously. It's not a, you hit the ground running. You're really already in sync. And the fact that that core crew is going to be working together for a couple of days just in this space will really get, I hope, the groove going, and we're kind of get into everything. And it gives us the opportunity to talk out what we're going to be doing on location. There'll be crew meals, lunches and dinners on those first 2 days, and that gives us the opportunity to refine things and finesse them. So we'll have a really good idea of what our production schedule is by end of day this Friday. But then that's subject to change to a degree, dependent upon, other factors. So there you go. Any other questions? I think I've answered everything else. I'm just going to scroll up quickly here and find out if there are any other questions. And if you want to share anything about your experiences, or you want to go over anything else, let me know. I'm just, again, looking at, besides the what's this daily drop question from Brandon, anything else. I don't think so. Okay, we're good. Let's see what we got. All right, so daily drop. So some of you might know, I think I've mentioned it on the show a couple of times, that for a period of about 3 years, I did a daily shoot, Sunday for Monday, Thursday for Friday. That was the last day. So 5 days a week, like daily episodes. And I used to call it Gearbox. And I would talk about whatever it was I was interested in, what it was that I was learning about, a new piece of kit that I got. And part of me feels like, and I attempted and failed at rebooting it as Gearbox 2.0. But I kind of want to get back to that spontaneous, in quotes, production and content. So I don't want to recreate I don't want to call it magic, but the concept of what I did with Gearbox. But what I am toying with is doing something that is very regular, but isn't the same every single day. So one thing I could do is a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and that can't be called the daily drop. But it takes discipline, and it takes more than just saying you're going to do it. You have to do it. You have to be committed to it. So the idea would be potentially to do a daily show called the Daily Drop. It's not going to be an hour long. I'm still trying to decide if it's a live stream or if it's pre-recorded with the setup I have here, where I can sort of just switch live. And I do have it set up that way with the ATEM Mini Pro and an Atomos recorder. And I've done some things now. It could be called the weekday drop. Could be called the weekly drop, and then it would only be one day a week. But I do like the idea of the discipline, and also the fact that I am very interested in production equipment, things that happen in our industry, where one day maybe I'm talking about a particular piece of equipment and showing how that works, and then the next day I'm talking about an announcement that's come out for a new piece of hardware or software on the market. So for instance, this week, maybe one of the days it's talking about the announcement that Final Cut Pro and Logic Pro is finally coming to iOS natively, and there'll be apps available. What does that mean? Well, I can have my thoughts about what it means. About time, maybe not about time, but that's definitely some people talk about the subscription model, which is not in any way new to Apple, by the way. It's just new to Apple when it comes to apps in the traditional sense that we would use, right? So obviously you have you have Apple Music, you have Apple Fitness, you have, their game platform. Um, we have a family sharing plan where we have access to all of those things. Not that I take advantage of all of them, but it's cheaper than doing it, piecemeal one by one. And yeah, so I think I'm in, but it has to be disciplined. And the one thing that I'm thinking about is, and I will answer your question, Colin, in a minute, is I'm thinking about doing it in the mornings every day, because one of the things that I run into is that the days kind of get away from you, like for all of us. And what that means is that, at a certain point, um, you just are in the day. And then the thought of being able to now set up cameras and go over content and do that kind of stuff really changes. So I'm not 100% sure how I want to handle that, but I'm thinking something like 8 o'clock in the morning every day. So like 8 a.m. Pacific time, which would be 11 Eastern. That might be an option. I don't know what people think about that. So give me your sort of feelings on that, and I'd like to hear um, kind of your take, because does that make sense? Especially if I do it live. If I do it live, it'll be recorded and I can, post it and do that kind of stuff. Um, so I'm really considering that. And I don't know if I can do it earlier than 8, because just the way the house gets up and everything happens. But 8 might work. It might be, I've got this set up here. I've got more than one camera. And so if I'm talking about equipment, I can set something up and go over it. I can go wireless in terms of audio if I need to do a setup, and then sometimes be um, anchored here. It gives the opportunity for people who do come to the live stream to interact. And then for the people who watch it back, they just watch back the playback. Or I just do one of the things that I had considered a while ago, which is hold till the end of the episode for Q&A. So the first 15 or 20 minutes is just talking about a particular subject and my thoughts, and then have the last uh 10-15 minutes for Q&A. That way I could have the live version, and then potentially, if I record it, I could just edit it out, the Q&A portion. So tell me about that. I think as a I don't always have a take on that, but as a viewer, what I'd like to know is, for you personally, if you were watching a playback of a live stream, would you be bothered by the fact that I'm calling out people in the chat who are giving comments, asking questions, and answering them in real time? Or would you prefer on a playback to just see the first 15-20 minutes of whatever that is, and then at the end there's a Q&A, and essentially can get edited out for an episode later on? For sure having guests, Colin, by the way. I've done a bunch of guest stuff on the channel, and I'd like to do more of that in the future. Um, so I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to decide. Live is fun because of the interaction, but pre-production or pre-produced shorts definitely have the spotlight as far as popularity, if view count is important. I mean, you obviously want to have an audience, right? And you don't want to have 10 or 15 people all the time. But I definitely like doing live stuff because I like the interaction. It's just, when does that interaction happen? Does it happen throughout the live stream or is it held? And that question isn't really for somebody who's going to watch it live. It's for somebody who's going to watch on a replay. So I'd like some feedback on that. Ono says, I think people who watch replays understand that the magic of live is the interaction with the audience. I don't think it will be a problem for you. Okay. DJ says, my inclination is that for content, I'd prefer to hear your piece and then Q&A, but not sure if it's a good idea to tease that out with. Okay. Got it. I'd still tune in if it's a live comments from the tube, as long as you also repeat the questions and or put them on screen. Yeah, I think I'm pretty tuned into that, Wouter, mainly because of teaching. Because when I'm in a room with a group of people and somebody asks a question, I definitely try to um, repeat the question to everybody in the room because they don't necessarily or can't necessarily hear that person. So, for instance, if I'm in front of 30 people and somebody in the front row asks a question and they don't turn to the rest of the people in the room, which I sometimes ask people do, then I have to repeat it so that everybody knows what the question is. Otherwise, I'm just answering one individual and everybody else is tuning out. So you can always respond to replay comments to engage the later viewer. I'd like to know what that means, Ono. I'm not sure I'm understanding that. I think the question I have is, what do people prefer? I'm just doing it live and there's live interaction. So I'm checking the comments and I'm picking stuff up every time somebody puts an at the C47 there. And I talk about that and I just leave it as intact. Um, and I do repeat people's questions so that when they do ask them, there's some context there so that people who are on a replay don't have to sit there and read what the chat is in real time. Or do I just spend the first chunk of the live stream on whatever it is that I want to talk about from my viewpoint and then wait till the end to do a Q&A? And I think I've gotten some answers for that. Colin likes the interaction with live viewers. And definitely turn on the live chat replay feature so there's context to the replay. Oh, yes, of course, that, but I don't know if everybody does that. But for Wouter, it'd be better if I'm just okay. Yep. Sounds great. Plus, if you use Ecamm so we can read the comment you're answering to, doesn't bother me watching a replay. So, David, explain that from your standpoint, because obviously this is being pushed to YouTube. I may push it to multiple platforms because Ecamm has that capability now. But when I'm doing the live stream, I'm looking at comments and reactions within Ecamm Live, which is a great feature for me because I don't have to have a separate window open with latency or anything else on YouTube in order to see the chat. So I love that feature, but I'd like you to clarify what you mean, David, about sounds great. Plus, if you use Ecamm so we can read the comment you're answering to, doesn't bother me watching a replay. I'm not sure you're seeing the Ecamm portion of it, but you would be able to turn on the live chat replay feature in YouTube, at least. It might be different in something like Facebook or LinkedIn. So let me just see. Thank you for all this feedback, by the way. Brandon says, what may be good is using pre-production intro outro could help hook the searching new viewer on the replay. Okay. I think you tend to do your thoughts early on and Q&A later in these lives. It could be your thing. The audience will follow along once they understand the format. And who watches on replay and sees the interaction that happens live may be interested on watching live next time and maybe grow the numbers of the show. That's an interesting viewpoint as well, David. A lot to consider, and any other feedback right now on that would be great. But I'm really thinking that every day is completely different. Some days may feel similar, but it might be that there's, again, a piece of software or hardware. And what I'm going to do is talk about that announcement or what that is, not as a review, not as an unboxing, Maybe sometimes I'll have the equipment, maybe other times I won't. But the point is that it's a timely, ongoing um, stream of consciousness about both things that are happening within the industry, having to do with equipment and solutions that we're using, but also an educational component to it, so that a percentage of the time I'm actually showing how a piece of equipment works or a concept works and what to do, and there's something there. Um, Sorry, talking about the eCam feature where you can see the comment on the screen as you talked about. Oh, you're saying I got it. I'm tracking with you. I don't think I've ever used that, David. So I think what you do, and I don't know how the heck you turn it on. I mean, I can obviously do this. This is different where I just go in and I show your comment here. But I think you'd want to be somewhat selective in terms of how you bring those up. So maybe it's your comment comes up, um, so I go like this because somebody has done an at the C47. I have a place where that sits here, and I say, oh, David has a question here, and I bring the question up. And then at a certain point, once I've answered it or everybody's seen it, I turn it off. Um, Got it, Brandon. You like the live and personal interaction. That's what keeps you coming back. During the pandemic, from Ono, Pat Flynn did daily lives. You might have a look at them for ideas on how to approach it. Okay, I'll look at that. That's a good thing. Like the way you show them on camera and Flask with the super chats. Yep, that's it. Showing the comment on screen is a great engagement with the audience. So it's just probably having a shortcut. I'm wondering if there is a shortcut that I can add to Stream Deck just for the comments. There probably is, because I can easily add it to the broadcast. I just have my mouse here and then turn that on and off. So that's good. I like that. So then that way, when I'm doing the live stream, I do have the opportunity to interact in real time with the audience when somebody asks a question or makes a comment that is relevant. Bring that up inside of um, inside of the stream, and then maybe reposition a little bit more like this, so that when I bring them up, I can do something like add it to the broadcast, but have not only a space for, let's say, picture in picture, but I could maybe have it up here. And I believe that I can resize this. I'm trying to do this with everything very far away from me. But yeah, I could do something like that, and then turn it on. People do like reading stuff. So good. Okay, that's helping tremendously, actually, and I really do value your feedback here. Ono says, plus, I think audience members love it when they see their comment on screen. It's exciting. Okay, gotcha. Makes sense. What else you got for me, kids? We got 12 minutes here. We can talk more about this. Any more feedback? What I really want to know, because you're the group of people who keep coming back regularly, is what kind of content do you want me to cover? Like, where do you get the most value from the channel? I know it's a break and we all get to just talk shop and chat and things like that. You know, I'm not flashy. That's not my thing. But what is it that you get the most out of the channel from? What is it that you want to get from that? So if I do a daily drop Monday through Friday, and I do it at 7:30 or 8 a.m. every single day for a half an hour to an hour, whatever it is, what is it that you're not getting from other channels that you want? And not that it's necessarily going to be exactly what I do, but what is it? I'm not interested in doing reviews. And I think that our viewing habits are changing in terms of even consuming content about the latest and greatest and the newest thing. It's just information overload, and you take everything else and you add on to it. it's a lot. So I'm really interested to know, what is it that you really want from that kind of stuff. And in the interim, Colin, let me go back here, and then I will come back to those later comments. And write some stuff. Put it on there. Write your comments, your feedback. And yes, I know about that 20% off sale. Here's your comment. Camera choice for the shoot. So this goes back to earlier. If you're just coming into the live stream, where I'm doing a production next week, educational videos on some Canon stuff. And so camera choice for the shoot, obviously for the hero stuff, is the Canon R5C, because that's the core focus of the series. But we are going to be shooting all of the other content with C70s. And in fact, one of the people on the crew is both a C70 and a R5C user, and they're going to head up the BTS educational one. Okay. So I like how Ecamm allows you to move them around easily. I don't know if StreamYard does that. I don't know either. I'm definitely in. It's Ecamm all the way for me. DJ says, I do like hearing the biz news, honestly. You folks are all real dialed in, and it's nice to get that exposure roundup to the happenings. Wilder says, I love the diversity of topics. I really like lighting and just talking experiences. So mostly what you have learned and why specifically. Got it. Tech and technique are good avenues, plus your experience and insight into each. Understood. I like hearing peers talking about the industry, how they are doing their jobs, and their favorite tools, not necessarily the newest and shiniest toys. Understood. Wilder, most people have channels that tell you one way to do things, but without sharing why exactly. I love the multiple ways to achieve a goal. Got it. DJ's agreeing with Colin. I even enjoyed some of the books you've talked about. That set of light software, all interesting, gears fun. But so's all the biz stuff. Got it. So all interesting, gears fun, but so's all the biz stuff. Agree with Colin. Got it. Okay. So it sounds like possibly along the lines of what I'm thinking about, which is sort of this combination of industry news and experience and practical application. So there's some tech and craft in there, but there's maybe also thoughts on the industry, ways to approach things, and all of that fun stuff. Okay, good. And I'm personally going to be doing some, I hope, some new stuff here. I sort of had this idea last summer where I really wanted to tackle the virtual production side of this from a corporate standpoint, from our side of production, not on a larger scale with large volumes. So I'm going to have another go at the Ultimatte 12 HD Mini, the smaller little box that does live keying with Ultimatte. And I'm getting a larger green screen solution than this one here. So this is the panoramic background from Manfrotto, but it's the disadvantage, even for somebody of my size, is, thank you, Colin. Great to see you. I'll see you soon. Even for somebody of my size, that 7-foot height is just very limiting because, as you know, as soon as you skin something like this with green, one of the things that you want to do is give yourself some distance. You don't want to have talent, while the keyers are getting really good, you don't want to have talent smashed up against that green screen. For obvious reasons, the biggest one is spill. And you can't avoid spill on a full cyc green, and that's a different conversation. But for sort of day in, day out corporate stuff, you're doing a 3/4 shot, often called a cowboy. You're framing up just below, the hands down, and just past the fingers there. Um, it's important to have a background, a green background that has enough width and also height so that you can get, uh, you know, wider shots. So I'm kind of starting to go down this road again a little less than a year later and see if I can tackle some of this virtual production stuff, but from a slightly different angle. And we're probably, 2, 3 years away from having portable volumes where essentially you have something like this, but it's a small volume. Let's just say 10-foot high, and let's say I'm just gonna say for giggles, probably about 15 feet wide, and that's LED based, and you can set that up relatively easily. And of course, the second part of the equation is going to be the hardware and software to make it all work. So the point of Ultimat is if you're not using a volume, which is also lighting your talent, and you're using green, what Ultimat allows you to do in theory is do real-time keys. And if you're feeding into it something like a background that's coming from, if you can do it, from Unreal, and then you have a tracker on your camera, you may be able to do some virtual production and do it at a much lower cost if your expectations are realistic. It's not about not having a photorealistic background or an environment that you buy as an audience, but it's about the fact that you can set up and do a day of production and break down in a way that it's manageable by a small crew. And that's really what's, to me, the next thing that we need to sort out. I'm excited to see what Apple does with at the Worldwide Developers Conference, what they do for their foray into mixed reality. I wouldn't necessarily say it's going to be virtual production in a traditional sense, but I think it will start to give us some insight in terms of where they're going for those experiences. Nobody has figured that out yet. And I don't know if anybody ever will. They most likely will. But if you look at that transition branding wise from Facebook to Meta and what they're doing, it's not like I'm having conversations with a lot of people who are hanging out in that virtual world and interacting with and buying products and things. Sure, there are people doing it, but it has not hit critical mass. Do I want it to? I don't know. As a father of 3 kids, I don't know if I want 3 kids with headsets stuck to their heads to have an experience that's probably a lot less interesting than going down to the local pub and sitting down with friends and having real conversations. But that's another conversation for another day. Um, so I think that's part of the journey, and having something that's ongoing, whether it's Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or it's 5 days a week, that allows me to also show progress or things that are going on is interesting to me. Um, I did sort of what got me into this, David, was the Xebo slider. Um, and it does have a built-in tracker, and I just felt like it it was a great product, but it wasn't the product that was going to do what I was looking to do for virtual production in the corporate space. It'll get there at some point, and I worked with that company for quite a while, related to sort of user experience, user interface, and some other things. And I think they're doing some very interesting things. If you did go to NAB and you went to their booth in the back of the central hall, you may have seen their new jib solution, which is, I think, very, very interesting, that sort of builds upon what they're doing with their pan tilt slider. So I think it's really interesting. Yeah. Um, that's what I've got. Get yourself a digital Bolex, Ono. There's not a lot of them out there because there weren't a lot made, but that is a cool little camera. And I think that's it. It's 4 o'clock. We did an hour. Your feedback was invaluable. I've got some thinking to do. I think if I do this, it's probably a June 1st start date. I am going down to LA to teach a workshop on May 31st at Able Cine. It's a full day lighting workshop. So I'm going to fly down on, I'm flying down on May 31st. I'm doing the workshop on Thursday, June 1st. And then Cine Gear is June 2nd and 3rd. So I'll be at the show. That's on the Paramount lot. If you don't know about the show, I think you can still register through some of the manufacturers for free. And it's probably my favorite show, especially now that it is on the Paramount lot. It's all about discipline. Oh no, I've got to have the discipline to do this every single day. So I'm going to be thinking a lot. I will just say that next week, no show because of this production. Um, the 24th is a tricky one because it depends on who's picking up somebody from my family. We might be in for a couple of weeks where there's nothing. I don't know what to do about this. It's going to be a weird time unless I start to change the time that I'm doing this live stream. And maybe that's the solution. Maybe that's the problem I'm running into is at 3 p.m. Pacific time. This just gets in the way of everything. It might be convenient for certain people. But I think this morning concept works well. I am a morning person anyway, and then just coming in here and doing it and relatively easy to do from the road. I think that the trick from the road is going to be just making sure I'm anchored so I have my laptop and I can set up for that. So much stuff to figure it out. I don't know. There we go. Pre-record some food stuff. I really should. But I don't want to when I'm cooking, Brandon. Because when I'm cooking, that's when I forget about everything. And that's when I just kind of chill and have my own time. All right, kids. Next week, nada. We've got to figure out our next Cameron Flask as well. Caleb and I were just going back and forth before this show, and I'd love to do that. I think we've got to look at different times, and I really do like this idea of doing something daily. If I do it daily, it's going to be called the Daily Drop, and it'll be Monday through Friday, and it'll be in the mornings, and it will be roundups of industry news and tech and craft and a mixture of things. And it probably won't be an hour long. It'll probably be there. It'll probably be. We didn't talk about anything, Dan. The Dan Palin. Good to see you. We just talked about a lot of stuff. We talked about new content and the fact that the food challenge is getting pushed to June. And I'm excited about this stuff. So thanks, everybody. I'll see you soon. I'll post something on the channel for when the next episode is going to happen. It's going to be soonish. I got to get this figured out. Next week, for sure, nothing, though. But I'd love to do something the week after, even if it's not at 3 p.m. Take care, everybody. See you soon.